the nice Pro Circuit T6. Okay, so pretty much now what I got to do is I need to take these pins right here and these lifter arms out of here so that they can go in here, and then I'll start prepping the new BBR cam for the race head. So once I get all this stuff done, this head will be pretty much ready to go back onto the bike. One thing to note is this plate goes on here to hold the cam in, and then it's got these screws in it. And these screws are Loctited in there. If you don't have one of these, good luck getting those out. You're gonna have to drill them. So with these pins, to get them out, most times you can use a magnet. You're gonna pull them out, and you're gonna pull this out with it. And I'm gonna put them back together, that way I know which one is which. And then I'm gonna take these paper towels that I just got, and I'm gonna write on them which side is which. That way I know which way they go back into the new head. I don't really need to take the cam out, but then at that point, then you can just pull your cam out. And that's that. So now we got a pretty well bare head. It's just got valves left in it. And that is the point that we're gonna leave it. I just kind of laid this out so I could show the difference between this cam and the new BBR cam. It's a Camshaft high performance KLX 140L/G 2008 to present. And this is what you get with it. Okay, so this is the stock cam. Bearings look the same. So right off the bat, you can see the duration difference, how this one is shorter here in the beginning than this one is. This one goes up more and then starts to round before this one does. And the same thing kind of with this front lobe. This one goes up and then abruptly changes, whereas this one's more rounded off, but it's a little bit taller. And you can see the height difference in them. This one's going to open up your valves a little further and allow you to get a little bit more airflow in and out of the head, which is going to in turn increase your performance if you add enough fuel to it. This V2 race head that's over here, if you're running that, you should be running this cam. You don't want to put the stock cam in that head. I'm going to go in here, right inside this hole. I'm going to put these on. These are our valve seals. They go around the top of the valve so that no oil can leak down past it and down into the valve and into the combustion chamber. All right, so I got my 8mm, which fits almost perfect on top of these. It pushes just on this outside edge so that it will make it seat. I'll take a little bit of my assembly lube here, just put it right inside there so that it doesn't go on there dry. It's right there, that little green seal. Then your valve comes up through that and keeps all the oil from going down below through it. Okay, here's the tool that I use. Not all these tools are going to be the same. They're not all going to work the same, but the concept of how they work is all going to be the same. What this is doing is it's pushing down the valve spring. It's got one end on the bottom of the valve and one end pushing down on the spring. So it's got this little window in here that you can see into this piece so that you can put your retaining clips, which are right here, into the grooves to hold the spring in place. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. You can see the back side of it right here, how it's got the rods going right onto the bottom of the base of the valve to hold it in place. So we'll go ahead and do those. And how we're gonna put those on there is a pain in the butt. So we're gonna use some grease. I'm gonna use a small flathead screwdriver. I'm gonna put a little bit of grease, and then I'm gonna leave just a little bit on my screwdriver and put the tapered end to the end of my screwdriver so that it sticks just like that. stick it right onto the inside of the valve. So I'm gonna do the bottom one first. And you might need to adjust, or like you can wiggle this and get a different position with where it's at so that you can get the other one in. But that one went ahead and stuck right where it needed to stick. So we'll move on to the next one. We'll do the same exact thing. So a little bit of grease inside that opening, and then stick it tapered in to the end of the screwdriver. We'll flip it in here, stick it right on the end of the valve stem like that, rotate it where we need it, slide her down into position. Take 35. A little bit of grease inside of here. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna watch them, the keepers, to make sure that they don't fall out when I'm releasing the tension off of the spring. There we go. That's one valve spring done. One left to do. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one off camera. Just get it done. Same exact steps. If you need the steps to do it again, just rewind the video. Okay, we got both the valve springs in. The next step is gonna be installing this cam so that we can put the lifter arms in place. So now we're gonna go ahead and stick this cam right inside here. There we go. Now these lifter arms, since they were in the other head and had different valves and everything in them, these may need to be adjusted before you can actually install the pin into it. Put some assembly lube on this. Slide this right into its position. Slide the pin right into it. Now we got plenty of slack. And then I'll look up the stock valve clearances and everything. Actually, I'll probably get on T-Bolt's website and make sure that this doesn't have a different clearance specification than the stock. Okay, went ahead and got those in there. So the next piece is going to be this little plate, which goes on here like this to cover those up and hold them in and hold the cam in place. So I'm going to go ahead and get some Loctite for these and put them right back in place. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is he decided not to buy new aluminum covers for these, so we're going to go ahead and just paint them black for now. Maybe I'll get a little bit fancy later and put like a Braap Boyz logo or something in there with the engraver. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and unbox the big bore kit itself and cover for the base of the cylinder. TB parts. And the cylinder looks beautiful. Nice. There's the new cylinder. We got our gasket kit, and we got our piston. The TB parts piston kit, KLX 140, 53 millimeter. And look at the size difference in those. This is the stock one, this is the big bore one. Got our piston ring kit. Have our wrist pin and our piston wrist pin clips. Okay, so here's the stock cylinder head versus the new TB parts cylinder head. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, most times you don't really even have to do this, but I am going to do it. I'm going to gap the rings on that piston, just so that I know that the ring gaps are all correct for the cylinder, because if they're not, they're too tight, that's when the ends of the ring meet and then you start having real problems. On these rings, these top two, one says 1R and one says 2R right here on the left side of that. So you got top and bottom. You put this in first. This is the first piece. Put it in there like that, and then you put your two spacer rings, one on either side. Okay, and one thing I like to do with this kind of stuff is I put the stock cylinder back in this box. Same with the piston. This motor still ran perfectly fine. That way when I give it back to my buddy, he can get this along with all the other parts and stuff that came off the bike. That way when he goes to sell it, it adds value to it. And if he doesn't want the stuff, I'll put it on my shelf. I looked right on Google. It says it's 7 thousandths to 12 thousandths. This needs to be somewhere in there for it to be proper ring end gap. You need to take 4 thousandths and times it by the diameter of your bore size. And that'll give you what the ring end gap's supposed to be. So, how to check the ring end gap, what we're gonna do is we're gonna place our piston ring in here. I'm gonna do the very top one. And I'm gonna take this piston. I just wanna make sure it goes in there nice and straight. Okay. Since it's 7 thousandths to 12 thousandths, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start with 0.009, which is 9 thousandths. I'm gonna put it in here like this, right between the ring gap. Oh, look at that, that fits perfect. So we'll jump to a 0.010. Yep, and just like I thought, it's not gonna fit. So this top ring is good to go. All right, now we'll go ahead and do the second ring real quick. Wipe it off. Go ahead and stick it down in here in the cylinder again, just like we did the first one. Okay, then we're gonna use our piston. We'll push it right down in there nice and flat. Make sure it's nice and straight. And we're gonna go ahead and jump back to the 9 thousandths, which is this one. Nope, and this one's not fitting in there. So we're gonna have to go to a 0.8. And if it's a 0.6 or less, then what we're gonna have to do is we're going to have to file the ring ends down. There's the 8. Okay, so the 9 wouldn't fit before, so let's check the 8. Oh, and look at that, the 8 fits perfect in there. So both rings are within spec, which is good. So now what we can do is I'll go ahead and start installing the piston rings on here with the oiling ring first, and then it's 2 outer rings, and then the top 2 rings. It's another thing that people tend to overlook a lot. And it's minor, like it doesn't really matter, but it does matter at the same time because it'll make your life just a little bit easier when you go to put the cylinder and the piston and everything back together. You have to put in one of the C-clips, which is these aftermarket ones are always a lot nicer. They have that little middle indent where you can grab them with a pair of pliers and put them right in. You want to think about where the piston's going to sit in the cylinder. It's going to sit inside the cylinder just like this. So that means most of the time when I work on a bike, I'm on the left-hand side of it because that's the cam chain side on most bikes. Is I'm going to go ahead and put in my clip on the back side, the side that is opposite of the cam chain. That way when I go to put it together, I can slide the pin in from this side and then put my clip in on this side. So I don't have to go around the other side of the motorcycle and then put a pin in and then come back around to finish doing all my timing cam stuff. I'm gonna take this. So we're gonna put them on our pliers like that. You also don't want this gap in this little spot right here. So start at the top. Sit right up here at the top and find the groove. And then once you get it in, you can kind of push it to the top and rotate it, and it'll go right down into this hole. Just like that. You don't want to rub it too hard because it'll move the rings again. But another thing too with this assembly lube is it's so sticky that it kind of makes your rings stay in place and make sure these skirts get a good amount of lubrication on them. Any parts that are going to have any kind of friction, go ahead and put some assembly lube right on the inside of here. Wipe it out nice and flat so that it's got a nice layer all the way through the cylinder. I don't take a whole bunch, but you do want to make sure that the whole cylinder is lubricated. And I'm going to grab all of the rings and try to kind of compress them with my fingers. So the next step is going to be put my base gasket on, make sure everything's nice and clean, and then put this right back on the bike, attach the piston, and then slide the cylinder down. And the cylinder and piston are back on the bike and ready for the head and cam chain and cam and all that other stuff to be hooked back up. So that'll be the next step. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up this this mating surface for this gasket, so that way we can put the new gasket on there. Also, there's one more thing that I just remembered that I have to do. This cylinder head needs this tube put back in it. It comes right out of this opening over here, and then I got the brand new O-rings for it sitting right there, so I'm gonna do that as well. Just don't forget to do this with your your cylinder if you're doing this swap, because then you won't get an oil up to your cylinder head. Okay, for this piece, you can see that there's 3 different O-rings. 2 are different thicknesses and one of them's a different diameter. So this big diameter one goes on the bottom down here and sits right against the inside of that. This thick one goes on here first. It sits right there on top of that one, just like that. And then this top one goes right on there, or the smallest one, it's the thinnest one, sits right on there just like that. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some grease on this, and then this is gonna go down into there. Just need enough to make sure that everything's got plenty of lubrication and it seals up any spots that are gonna let any kind of water or anything in. So stick it right down in here, just kind of wiggle it in. It'll go. You just gotta kind of, maybe you're supposed to put these in afterwards. I don't think so, but we're gonna try it. Okay, so I'm guessing that is what you're supposed to do. So then you bring this top one in, the thicker one, push it down into its hole right against the bottom collar. Okay, put our top one on right there. And that's how that goes. Now our cylinder is ready to go back in onto the engine. Drop this down in here. Make sure that our timing chain tensioner rail is there. Push this pin or the piston right through the rod. There we go. Okay. Piston just like that. Grab my needle nose and push this pin, make sure it's all the way in, and lay it right around the cam chain hole and the piston, the rod. And grab my clip and go from this side. Here. There we go. Alright, we got that on there now. Now, all it's left to do is slide this piston up into that cylinder and make this new cylinder the stock bottom one. Perfect. Grab me a clean shop towel and I'll wipe all the excess oil off the top of this, all the assembly lube. Take a magnet, reach right down in there, and pull your chain right out the top. I'll take this other rail, slide it right down inside of here. There we go. It's been a couple days. I dropped the locating pin for the camshaft down in the bottom end. So I had to order a new gasket for that side cover because I ended up having to pull off the flywheel and everything to get that pin out. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and disassemble or take this cover back off because I put it on prematurely, didn't get to video it. That way I can show you guys how to at least time the top end on this. That way you kind of know. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up my dirty ass workspace and jump right into doing this. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys how to time this. In order to do this without taking this cover off, which my cover's already loose because I have to replace the gasket under it because I dropped the pin from this cam gear down inside there, so I had to pull this side cover off to be able to pull the magneto off and get it, or the flywheel off and get it. So anyway, to do it without taking this cover off, you need to pull this plug and take this plug out. Then you can use a 12mm inside here to rotate your crankshaft over to find the line that I'm getting ready to show you underneath this cover. Now, here it is without the cover on it. So right here you have two lines. So you got one that says F with a line and one that says T with a line. Your top dead center is the one with the T. Is when this is open, you just want to line it up right with the center of your hole. You actually have a little alignment dowel right here that you can line that T line up with. But since we got the cover pulled off of it, we're going to go ahead and do it without the cover. You're going to put your 12mm in there, and you're going to rotate your engine over. You're going to keep rotating it over, and this is kind of hard because this engine rotates over pretty easy. We're going to rotate it over until it lines right up with this notch right here in the top of the, that's a pointer. That's just part of the gasket on the right side of that, but that silver piece right here is the alignment. So now we have it lined up, and we're going to look right at the cam gear. Now the cam gear should be lined up right with this one. This top line, right with here. Once you have those on and your chain's good, to double check to see if it's in time, you can stick your finger right inside here and put tension on the chain to make sure that this stays lined up and this stays lined up. Once you confirm that, then you can go ahead and just put your timing chain tensioner back into the bike and release the tensioner to tighten the chain. So at that point, you're pretty well done, and that's how you time the bike. And this is pretty well good to go. I still have other things that I need to do with this bike. Like I still need to install the carburetor, and I need to do a sprocket up front, and I gotta change out the fork springs and the rear shock spring, put new plastics on it. So I still got a lot of stuff left to do to this bike. So also check this out. I engraved this on here by hand. It's a buddy's bike, so I kind of just did it and sent him pictures, and he said, dude, that's badass. Got that all wrapped up, and went ahead and put that exhaust system on there. The nice Pro Circuit T6. We're gonna start working on the carb because I want to know what jets and everything are in it, because we're gonna go ahead and start putting that in here. But we need to know everything over here before it can go in there.